we're going to work in today in just a second, but what's important here is that we always stay in close. Anytime there's distance between you and the subject, distance means counter. That's what it means to me. It also means getting hit, so I don't want any distance to be here. So I'm going to be in here close, doing what we call a sticky man philosophy. In other words, I'm in here sticking to him like glue. I'm down here tight. It prevents him from doing anything to me, and I can do a lot of things to him by just staying in close to him. Same thing if it's reversed and he's on top of me. I want to keep him down here in close to me. I don't want him to have this range where he can do a lot of damage and by doing striking techniques and reaching for arm bars for me and everything else. I want to get him down in here, sticky man philosophy, where I can deal with him by keeping my body close to him. That's an important aspect of the ground combatives. Still talking about basics now. We're looking at putting not only do we want a solid base in all these positions, we want to make sure that we've got close contact, and then I want to try to minimize his foot movement back there by putting my hooks into his legs back there in the back. That prevents him from doing almost any techniques and using his legs as leverage by me just tying up his legs. It takes very little strength on my part and a sufficient or significant amount of strength on his part to try to break that particular leg lock. And until he does that, he's very restricted on the type of counters that he can do from the position when I'm in the mount position. We want to make sure that we never give the subject our back. In other words, what that means is if Daniel rolls over this way and I'm on top, when I get to his back, it makes it very easy now for me to sink a neck restraint or a chokehold. We know that in chokeholds I can squeeze him in 3 to 6 minutes. He's never gonna move again for the rest of his life because I can kill him with that chokehold. So, but giving the subject giving you his back does not necessarily mean the entire back has to be facing you. This is giving the subject your back right there. In other words, at that 45-degree plane, as I start to see that coming around, I don't need to wait for complete rollover to apply neck restraint. As he's in this position right here, I can start applying the neck restraint right now, and I can get him to roll over the rest of the way and finish him as I need to finish him by myself. So we want to make sure that we're conscious that we never give the subject our back. This is the disadvantage of wrestlers in general that have only wrestled competitively and not wrestled for self-defense purposes, is they're used to rolling to their stomach to prevent from being pinned because it's a sport, and of course in self-defense application you roll to your stomach, you're in a real tight jam. So we don't want to have the guy give us his back. We talked about hooks into the legs. I want to show you too that we know that a lot of the techniques will be based on neck restraints, chokeholds, strangleholds, whatever you choose to call them. And we know that in police work these days, a lot of agencies don't allow these particular techniques to be used, which I think is a real disservice to the officer in general. But if that's the policy that we can't use neck restraints, then what we are going to try to do is use neck cranks and manipulate the neck joints, similar to doing an arm bar. Similar to doing an arm bar or a leg lock or a wrist lock or anything else. We're manipulating the joint, trying to use pain compliance as our efforts to subdue the subject. Notice I'll put Daniel, we'll do a short demo here. I'll put Daniel in a neck crank and start working on him. Let him go ahead, full speed and power, try to get up from the neck crank, and then we'll try the same type of technique with a neck restraint. Okay, Daniel, hang on just a second. Okay, I get Daniel in a good solid neck crank where I want him. This is a pretty good technique here. I got good grip on his chin. As I'm pulling up on his chin, I'm pushing down on the back of his forehead. Puts a lot of torque on his neck. So this is not a chokehold. I'm trying to control him now with the neck crank. Okay, ready? Go. There's your counter right there. So we know, we spoke about buying time and how important it is to try to be able to survive in these situations for as long as you can. It's like building blocks. We want to survive for a second, then 2 seconds, then 3 seconds. So we want to survive till either help arrives or that we have a opening that allows us to counter this individual and sufficiently subdue him for handcuffing. We see with the use and the application of a neck crank that I was able to buy a second, maybe at the most, before he already countered the technique. Let's try a neck restraint now, or a chokehold, and try the same type of setup here where I'll tell him to go, and let's see how much time we can buy now. Let it go. See, I'll just stay here all day long as Daniel continues to tap out, showing me that he can't breathe and he wants to quit right away. So, if you have to use neck cranks, please understand that you're a distinct disadvantage over a neck restraint, and that your ability to buy time is going to be diminished significantly. Okay, I want to show the 6 different positions that we're going to be working in today. The officer will be in the advantage position in 3 of those, and then the subject will be in the advantage position in the other 3. That gives us 6 different positions. And of course, we want to learn how to work effective offense as well as defense in all 6 of these positions. The first position we're going to talk about is the best one of all of them, is the mount position. In the mount position, the officer is on the torso of the subject. He's got his knees firmly planted on the ground. He's going to use his feet eventually to sink these hooks we talked about before, which gives him takes away the base of the subject. He also has his 2 hands in play here that he can do various things with his hands, which we'll show later, working arm bars, chokeholds, striking techniques, all these things that can occur from the mount position. And this is called the mount. This is the best position you would want to be in a ground combative situation, and the last position you want to be in if you're the officer and you're on your back. The second position, here again is a position of advantage for the officer, is called the side mount position. There's a couple variations from this. One of the positions in the side mount, I got my arm up underneath his neck, I got a good solid base back here with my feet, and I'm wrapping up this other arm here. Notice that I'm sitting on this arm here to prevent any type of weapon takeaway. Another possibility on this would be this position here. Same type of idea, but when I go to this position, I'm going to vary my side mount. Still got a good solid base so I can't be ruled. I'm still in here tight, and this helps minimize there again gun takeaway that we don't want to have. And then thirdly, I can accomplish the same thing in a side mount position. He can't reach for my gun. I'm controlling this arm, and I'm always controlling the neck. My body positioning is chest to chest, feet spread apart for good stability, and all my weight on top of the subject to make it difficult for him to breathe and also difficult for him to count. And then thirdly, position of advantage, and this might fool some of you, is when the subject's in what we call the guard position. Don't think because you're on your back, you're in a position of disadvantage. You're actually at a good position of advantage. I've got him in my guard. I restrict his movement that he can do. In the guard position, I can either have an open guard, which is my feet unlocked, or I can have a closed guard position. From here, I can pull him down into me. I can push him back away. I can work the range that I need to work depending on what I'm trying to do simply by manipulating my legs back and forth. It also puts him out of range. He's going to attempt to counter that particular technique. When he does, he gives me targets of his body and different appendages, his arms, his head, that I can work effective techniques with. So this is also a position of advantage, and this is called the guard position. Now we're going to change it around, and we're going to show where the officer has a position of disadvantage, where the subject's in these same positions. For instance, the first one, the officer's on his back, bad position to be in, subject's in the mount position. This is not good for the officer, and we'll show why here in just a little bit. The side mount position, now the subject has a side mount, officer's in this position. Of course, from here, the subject's going to be attempting to mount. That's what we're going to try to do. And then thirdly, the officer is in the subject's guard. The officer is now in the subject guard. He can manipulate the officer now where he wants him to be, and that is not a good position for you to be in. Here again, all of these positions, there's positions of advantage and positions of a disadvantage. There are techniques that you can perfect in each one of these positions to give you the opportunity to buy